Hello, YouTube world. Um, JM Astrology right here. Um, so I'm sure we're all very aware of the whole Will Smith and Chris Rock interaction that happened last night. Um, I want to bring up some very, very interesting things that have been going on astrologically in relation to this event. All right, so first of all, we've got the moon, Venus, Mars, and Saturn all conjunct in Aquarius. And this timing isn't accurate. I know it happened last night, but I mean it's close enough. Just bear with me. Um, we also have the Sun in Aries and Mercury and Chiron also in Aries. I'm going to touch on these aspects in just a little bit. I just want to show you guys for demonstration purposes. Um, his moon being in square with all of those Aquarius planets in his 10th house of what? Public reputation, all being in square with his moon, which is conjunct Neptune, and then also the Mars and Jupiter and Virgo there, and another very interesting point too. Well, the fifth house here in general, but also the Saturn in Aries. Because watch this. 23 degrees Aries. Pay attention to that. Now, look what's happening here in Chris Rock's chart. Ascendant in Aries and Moon in Aries, and the Saturn is most likely conjunct about 23 degrees. So his Saturn is smidged between Chris Rock's Ascendant and Moon right here. Now, if we look at that, there's some of that Virgo action going on, which that Mars is also irritating Will's fifth house right there. But for Chris Rock, it would be his sixth house of conflict, of fights. Interestingly enough. Okay, so oh yeah, also keep in mind too, his Sun in Aquarius, Mercury and Venus, Capricorn ascendant, which is ruled by what? Saturn. Saturn. Okay, I don't want to sound like a prick here, but all right. So what does all of this mean? All right, so Aquarius is a sign of what? Rebellion, sudden change, the unexpected, unconventional attitudes. Um, and the fact that Moon, Venus, Mars, and Saturn are all here squaring his moon, squaring Will's moon and Neptune and Scorpio right here. That definitely shows that there's a limelight being shown on him. Saturn was almost doing him a karmic justice, or there was something in him where he felt he had to do justice, especially with the Saturn in Aries debilitated right there, being a retrograde, which may or may not be a karmic factor. But I mean, seeing that it's one of the only retrograde planets in his chart, I would certainly think so. And especially his fifth house being lit up here with all of these planets right here, which is very, very interesting. And we can also see he does not like people talking about his family because the Mars in Virgo is misguiding the perfectionist virgin energy. And that being in the fourth house of family does not like people talking about his family. You can see that Will himself is definitely not afraid to speak out against injustice or is afraid to get into fights and conflicts because of his Venus and Mercury here in the sixth house, right along Libra, of what? The sign of social justice, balance, harmony. He definitely is a good hearted person, don't get me wrong, but with all of these factors and taking into consideration Chris Rock's chart, and also what does Saturn rule? Saturn rules discipline, hard work, structure, limitations, routine, discipline. It can also, I mean, in my opinion, could possibly be karma related. It's an area of life where we feel like we have to work a lot, or also we gain an advantage because it restricts a certain aspect of our personality as well. The thing is, with between these two, there is definitely some interesting Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries energy going on, especially that being triggered because of the current Aries placements with Sun being about here, Mercury being about here, and Chiron being about here. So in his chart, in Will Smith's chart, Chiron, the North Node, the part of fortune, and the Saturn retrograde are all being impacted. So of his dreams, hopes, goals, and ambitions, and especially with the Saturn being conjuncting the 12th house in his chart of unconscious, perhaps unconscious burdens or stresses, bed pleasures, fantasies, and such things of that house. It could we could see why people have been talking about that whole incident with Jada Pinkett's. Well, I don't want to get too into it. I don't want to get wrapped up in the drama or anything like that. But there's, yeah, the proof is absolutely in the pudding. I mean, if we look at both charts, if you had enough time to absorb that information from both charts, you can clearly see that there was some shit come to the surface and it had to be done. A karmic justice, especially due by Saturn, which if it was the personal planets, it may or may not be as impactful, but especially when it's one of the bigger planets, I find there is a larger lesson attached to it. Especially with Saturn, especially with Saturn and all of these planets, especially with Moon, Venus, and Mars, definitely something having to do with personal affairs, or it could be about lovers, and it could be about affairs, especially because Moon is about the subconscious. It rules feminine feelings, our everyday mood. Venus rules lovers, art, pleasure, luxury, relationships, and love. And Mars represents, it can represent libido, action, aggressiveness. I mean all of those planets in Aquarius with Saturn there too. I mean, you can you can add the puzzle pieces yourself too and see the aspects if you are that good at astrology. But yeah, I just thought it shed some light. I might actually make a video that's more organized than this because I know this was all over the place and not everyone's gonna know probably like what I was referring to. But for the astrology buffs out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's pretty clear as day what exactly was happening. So yeah, the proof is in the pudding right there, dude. Um, you know, I just wish the best of love in all in the whole situation. You know, I mean, I'm sure it was just a lot of things buried underneath that have needed to come to the surface in order to be understood and in order to be fully integrated and recognized necessary karmic lessons, because something that some people don't know is that Aquarius is also a it is a karmic sign because it is also ruled by the North Node Rahu. What happens with the North Node Rahu in Aquarius is that the North Node makes it unconventional. That's part of what makes it also brilliant, besides Uranus. And the North Node also makes it also makes it have to be almost like a workaholic, like a robot. It's like the robot in the factory is just like making package after package after package after package. Like it's that sort of thing. Which, I mean, that's not, I don't know if that's exactly relevant in this situation, but especially with Aquarius, I mean, there's definitely a whole lot of rebellious stuff there going on in his 10th house. And, you know, Will felt like he had to make a statement and he did what he had to do. I mean, for himself. That's one of the problems with Aquarius too, because it can tend to be a sign that has its own sense of self-righteousness, and that can sometimes rub others the wrong way. Well, I mean, my opinion, I mean, if anything, I mean, I definitely think that Chris certainly was not the one in the wrong here. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, make of this what you will. If anyone has anything interesting to add in the comments, definitely let me know. I mean, like I said, I might make a video about this in the future. Um, yeah. Have a good one.